Chapter 1. Return of a Greek Goddess. Kevin hadn't been slapped in quite a long time, but here he was, standing in front of a large crowd of adolescent girls, with his face turning red both from the hard blow to his right cheek and the embarrassment that it had caused. Luckily for him, however, the only person who was even looking at him was his extremely enraged girlfriend, Bradley. Everyone else in the crowded Verizon store had turned to stare at another girl, one who had just come through the door, a girl who Kevin now blamed for his stinging cheek and angry girlfriend. It wasn't really his fault that his jaw had dropped through the floor when she walked in. Every single person aside from Bradley had stared at her, including both of his brothers and their security guard. It was hard not to gape at the tall, beautiful girl who had the figure and hair of the sweetest mermaid he could ever imagine the ocean possessing. Elegantly arched eyebrows, even more perfectly plucked than Nick's, curved over her wide, innocent eyes set in a delicately sculpted face. Her floor-length blonde locks trailed behind her, perfectly combed and gently blowing in the non-existent wind. She was sporting a soft pink sweater set and knee-length ebony skirt, while a fashionable black bag hung from her shoulder. He could have sworn he heard a faint hallelujah chorus playing somewhere in the background as she stood in the doorway, the bright afternoon sun behind her making it seem like she was appearing out of a heavenly light. Bradley's slap, however, brought him back to reality. He blinked several times and shook his head slightly, as if that could clear the image of the incredibly gorgeous girl from his mind, and averted his eyes back to his girlfriend, who was still glaring at him. "Sorry," he said sheepishly, attempting to pass it off as a joke, which usually worked. "I was staring at another hot blonde again, wasn't I?" Bradley wasn't having any of it. She rolled her eyes as she said dangerously, "Like hell you were. You were gawking." Kevin stuttered, unable to deny her accusation. Bradley opened her mouth, probably to triumphantly proclaim something along the lines of, "I knew it," but she was distracted by the massive amount of people emitting a collective soft gasp as the mysterious blonde began to move, gliding smoothly across the floor almost like she was ice skating. Bradley turned from Kevin to give the girl her most deadly evil eye. The girl approached them, smiling and seemingly unfazed along the path that naturally cleared for her through the crowd. She walked straight up to their table, her eyes focused only on the boys. On either side of Kevin, Nick and Joe were still speechless with infatuation at the sight of her unspeakable loveliness, and their eyes stayed glued on her radiant face with every step she took. When she reached them, however, it was Kevin she spoke to. "My gosh, Kevin, it's been a long time," she said quietly. He noticed her voice had a trace of an accent, but he paid more attention to the softness of her words than to their variation. He would have thought that a girl who looked like her would have had the confidence to speak loudly, but apparently not. He decided she was probably just one of those girls that was shy around people when they first met, but could open up to total strangers after being around them for several hours. There seemed to be a lot of girls like that in his life, not to mention Nick and Joe's. Kevin said inarticulately. The girl continued to smile bashfully up at him, though her large, doe-like blue eyes held a hint of amusement at his obvious confusion. "You don't remember me, do you?" "No," Kevin admitted. "Sorry. Should I?" She let out a laugh that sounded like delicate, tinkling bells. Kevin wondered if it was as musically delightful to anyone else's ears besides his own. "Yes, you should," she said, "considering we spent every second of our spare time together in preschool and kindergarten." He realized now that her accent was Australian. He couldn't help thinking that Joe would be pleased. As he looked at her face, trying to picture what she would have looked like 15 years ago, a faint slew of memories began coming back to him. Before they were fully formed, however, she spoke again. Kev, it's me, your best friend from Dallas. It's Aphrodite Shimmer." I gotta move while the street